to pay tribute to Reggie Williams, his work and his life as a community activist. He was born April 29, 1951 in Cincinnati, Ohio. The seeds of activism in his persona were at an early age cultivated by his mother and the close bonds of his extended family. He has been at the forefront of the fight against AIDS since 1982.
I am normal just like anyone else, and I should be allowed to come to my job as long as I am physically able to do so, just like anyone else. I didn't think that I could tell my mother because I didn't personally feel like I wanted to put another burden on her. She had 9 children. My oldest brother had been murdered a few years ago, and so she had to go through that whole issue of his death and trying to accept that. And then I had a couple of other brothers who were going through drug addiction problems, and so I felt like, you know, sharing this knowledge, my knowledge, with her at that point was going to be another burden. My mother ultimately found out from one of my aunts, her sister. My mother passed away 2 years ago of cancer, and when she was going through some of the early stages of that, actually when she was going through chemotherapy and radiation and stuff like that, we would talk almost daily. And she would always say to me, you know, baby, they're doing some wonderful things with AIDS, and they're doing some wonderful things with cancer, and we can beat this. We just have to be strong, and we have to hang on. And I'll never forget her for saying those kinds of things to me. For me, a lot of people know, because I have this public persona about my HIV disease, there are a lot of people publicly who know that I have it. I never hesitate to put that forward as who I am. You know, that's a part of the Reggie Williams, the public person. And so I know that there's a large array of people out there who know about my HIV status. Not necessarily because I told them, but it is sort of public knowledge. But there's a fear that I have of, you know, since all of these people publicly know that I'm HIV infected, you know, do they still see me as a desirable person, someone that they might want to be intimate with?
Growing out of his experiences while working as a radiologist at UC Med Center in San Francisco, he observed firsthand what was happening with the AIDS epidemic and its impact on the bodies, minds, and spirits of the patient population. His own life would take a dramatic turn in 1986 when he first became ill from hepatitis, which was connected to the underlying infection that was HIV disease. It was at this time that he became passionately involved in numerous community projects. Much of his community work was with the local chapter of Black and White Men Together and forging coalitions amongst people of color. His national work began when the CDC funded the National Task Force on AIDS Prevention in 1988 to provide targeted prevention services for gay and bisexual men of color. While constantly working on his objectives of raising awareness, empowering people of color and gay men of color, influencing behavior changes and providing technical assistance, his efforts have contributed to reducing the transmission of HIV and ensuring a range of HIV services in communities historically underserved by health education and health care delivery systems. He has managed several demonstration projects in San Francisco and a national program impacting 30 cities across the country. Mr. Williams is a full-time activist on local, regional, national, and international levels who consistently relates his own experience as an HIV-positive African-American gay man to the other problems so evident today for an African-American people as a whole.
I think that often many counselors, mental health professionals want to use that mainstream model, and it's not always necessarily appropriate for people of color. I think that they need to look at the cultural implications that this disease process has. The other factor that I think that they need to think about is where the person might be. Our experience in dealing with people with HIV is that HIV is another issue on their already full plate.
Taking up many challenges and fighting on many fronts at once, his energies have been directed towards changing the way in which both government and the public view this deadly epidemic. His most powerful actions and statements have been made as an advocate for justice and fairness for gay men of color, particularly those who are fighting the ravages of HIV disease.
Sometimes I think that it would be nice to stop and to just take time to deal with the me. But then this epidemic continues to ravage our community so badly that I feel that if I stop and take time to deal with me, then it's going to catch up with us and consume us all. And so it's like that constant need to keep going.
I have this disease and I'm living my life now in a positive way. As a black gay activist, I would like to encourage other people of color to come forward and take their role alongside me and many other activists, white, black, brown. It's going to take all of us to stop this disease.
I campaign every day of my life for a fairness to treat diverse populations with equality. I challenge you with a call to action and a call to arms. I challenge you to arm yourselves with the foresight to affirm and view this crisis as a long-term American health issue. To arm yourselves with the power to influence the sufficient funding of the federal AIDS budget. To arm yourselves with the leadership to demand from the CDC a comprehensive plan to the AIDS crisis. I challenge you to be the leaders of this movement.